All right, guys, welcome to this week's show. My name is Ali Mona, and I'm a health strategist and an online business coach if we haven't met yet. And every week I bring you live interviews with experts spanning various fields in health and wellness. And together we aim to elevate our holistic well-being. And another thing that you should know about me, and Steph knows this about me, is building community is really close to my heart. And I am deeply committed to empowering individuals worldwide, doing a couple things. One, fostering more freedom in your life. And two, opening doors to more possibility in your life. And so having incredible guests week after week, like Steph, who's joining us today, is an honor and a privilege that I certainly don't take lightly. So welcome to you. And Steph, welcome back to you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here again. Last week was so much fun.
It was so much fun. So let me give a brief introduction to Steph. If you missed last week's episode, just so you know who we're speaking with today, Steph is a financial coach, an entrepreneur, and a champion of women, which I love that title. A champion of women primarily as their own commanders of their own money. And Steph's story is super interesting. So she paid off $135,000 of debt, combining student loans, credit cards, and auto loan debt. And so she walks the walk and she knows what she's doing, my friend. And so if you missed her personal story, go back to episode 1. It's here on my page. You'll find it. It's an incredible story and it's worth listening to for sure. And Steph is passionate about creating a safe space to help women step into their own financial power and achieve their goals. And she does this a couple ways through one-on-one coaching, accountability, and then ongoing support. So Steph, I'm really excited for today's topic. Today's topic is ditching bad debt for good. And when I was writing that today, I was like, not ditching bad debt for good debt. That's not what we're doing. We're ditching bad debt forever, right? But maybe you'll end up with some money where you can invest in some good debt. Like, wouldn't that be nice, right? That's the
Yeah.
goal, yeah. And so go ahead and walk us through kind of your mindset around debt.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, bad debt and good debt, there's always that's a hot topic, but debt is not, I don't think, the end all be all like evil of the world. I think that there's, a lot of really well-intentioned people out there that are like, oh, I'm going to, get these credit cards and pay them off every month. And then the realistic thing is that most people don't, unfortunately, even, with the best of intentions. But
You're gonna
yeah,
get
good
behind.
debt. It's about how you leverage it, right? I do believe you can leverage credit card debt or business debt or real estate debt for, you know, good things or credit card points, to buy flights and save on family vacations and, the Amazon card to like pay for your family's Christmas gifts. But the key, I think, is leveraging it responsibly, right? So when
Mhm.
we're talking about getting out of bad debt, and I don't know how much we want to even go into like, okay, bad debt versus good debt. Um, debt that is one, like soul crushing or budget crushing, or that like, you're literally can't make payments and can't make ends meet. Debt with high interest rates, a lot of consumer debt, which is going to be the credit cards, the personal loans, high interest rate debt, anything high interest, definitely over 10%. There's some debate on whether, people consider it 5% or 4% or 6.5%. But one way to look at debt is like, and we'll talk about this more when we get to the investing in 2 weeks, but what are you prioritizing paying off, and why? And if, you have like $20,000 of credit card debt that is, 29% interest, everyone's like, I want to invest, right? And that's usually what gets people in the door is like, let's invest. They go to a financial advisor. I think I need to invest. And they realize, you have 20, 50,000, whatever amount of credit card debt or high interest debt that's above, 6, 7, 8%. You investing that like $500 a month into the market that is averaging maybe 6 to 10% return, you're like bleeding out another 20% in interest. And so, those are some of the conversations that I have with people about what is, bad debt, like what is dragging you down, what is, realistic to pay off. What order do you want to do that in? So, from my standpoint, there's no one right way to get out of debt. I think we talked about this last week. There's no one right way to do money. It's not a one size fits all approach to budgeting.
Right.
And so, not all debt is created equal either, right? And not everyone's financial goals are the same. I have clients that have $2,000 worth of debt and it's the most stressful thing ever for them. And they just want to get rid of it as fast as they can. And then there's ones that have $50,000 in debt and are like, yeah, we'll get to it.
Good.
We'll pay it off when we get there. So, because of that, like there's a lot of different strategies for deciding, what you pay off first, how you pay it off, all of that, and I think the way to start that conversation though is actually about debt in the first place. Like, how does it make you feel? What are your attitudes toward debt? How often do you think about it? Does it keep you up at night? Like, what is the long-term goal? A lot of people come and say, oh, my goal is to get out of debt, right? But why? Like, is that actually the goal? Because if I go into every client conversation being like, oh, debt is evil and we need to get rid of this fast and whatever, like the client might not care about getting out of debt that fast. They might care more about something else, saving for a down payment on a house, saving a full emergency fund, right? If I had taken my own advice now, back when we were paying off debt, I would have highly prioritized putting into an IRA over paying off low interest student loan debt.
Right.
So for some people, yeah, it can be problematic. And we need to, maybe prioritize paying down the debt. But what if you thought about it? And this is like part of the mindset too, which we'll weave throughout these sessions, but specifically talk more about next week, is like, what if paying off debt isn't actually the goal? I think we talked about last week, like the, in debt, don't know how to get out, not saving enough for my goals, and don't know where my money goes every month. Like, that's not actually the problem. Those are all symptoms. Like, what if debt and getting out of debt was like the symptom of the goal? What is
Give
the
me a
goal
concrete example of that,
behind debt?
Steph.
So say you want to get out of debt, or a time where you have gotten out of debt in your life. Why? Why did you want to get out of that debt?
I can answer.
Yeah,
I wanted more money to invest. I wanted to free up my income.
exactly. So the goal for you was to invest more money, right? Getting rid of your debt was just a strategy.
Yeah, I was like a step in the process, right?
To get to the
Okay.
actual goal, right? You wanted to free up money because you wanted to use that money for something else, right? So what is the dream behind paying off debt? And we looked at debt as the strategy or method to be able to get there.
Right. I think I love the conversation around how do you feel about your debt? Because if it is the $2,000 and it's keeping you up at night, right? And you can't go out to eat and enjoy the time with your family and, whatever, then it is a priority for you.
Yeah.
It is important because that is the goal, is to go to bed peacefully at night, right?
Yep.
The goal is to spend time with the family without
Yes.
extra anxiety and stress.
Yes.
Right. And so I like the debt repayment strategies as a vehicle to get to the actual lifestyle
Yep.
that you want to experience on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic reframe, because debt repayment can feel like extra jobs, no rest, like what you talked about last week, beans and rice. It can feel so gray and bleak that you don't even want to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if it's towards something different, if there's something behind the debt repayment, then you might be more interested in playing. It might be more fun for you.
Yeah. And getting out of debt too, the key is consistency. The key is actually doing it. So what is going to keep you motivated, right? Thinking about how awful this debt feels, or thinking about, wanting to pay for a family vacation in cash. Maybe that's the goal, or to buy the new car in cash so you can travel around, or like, provide a safer vehicle for you to drive your family around in, or so that you can invest more in something else, or you can invest more in your business, or you can give back to more causes. What
Right.
is the goal behind that?
There's an end goal. Yep.
It's the better position, you need to be in to achieve the dreams that you want, right? And getting out of debt becomes the method, that we use to achieve that goal. So, as a financial coach, like, it's my duty to help understand the client's needs and wants and dreams so that I can support them, as we work to achieve those things. Sometimes paying off debt, absolutely the fastest way possible, is the method needed to achieve those dreams as fast as possible, right? Sometimes there's a more mediated approach, and it doesn't necessarily need to be all your extra dollars and spare cash and everything and sell all the things, like, to get to that goal. It might be a 5-year goal. It might be a get this over with as fast as we can goal. And that's where it's, individualized.
Mhm.
But we want to shift our perspective on it first, right? And like you talked about, there's if it's causing you stress, waking you up at night, like, you can't enjoy dinner out with the family because you're so stressed out about, the extra money it's putting on your credit card. Those are all very valid feelings about debt. But what a lot of people do is bury their head in the sand and
Yeah.
run away, ignore the situation. Uh,
Avoidance.
Guilty,
It's
yep,
like
avoid. And surprisingly, I'll let you know that doesn't actually make it go away. Uh,
shocking.
I know,
Shocking. You
right?
heard it first right here, people.
uh, so what if you don't want to run away, but like, if you can shift your perspective about, like, paying off debt as being the strategy you're using in order to achieve the actual dreams, the ones that feel out of reach right now because of what the debt is doing to your budget. You'll be able to kind of run toward your dreams. If you think about running toward investing, running toward, more free family time, the emotional freedom, the mental tax, running toward being free of all of that, instead of like running away from your debt and avoiding it and running away from your mistakes from the past. I'd say that's like a necessary and powerful kind of reframe that needs to happen before you even decide which method to use.
Okay, so today we have what, 4 methods that you want to go by? You want to walk through?
Yeah, we're gonna go over the 4 methods, 4 or 5 methods that people hear of or that I use to help people get out of debt. And the first, we'll just start with the one that people, I think of the most, is the snowball method. Dave Ramsey popularized it. He didn't invent it, but he made it popular. And that's where, you list your debts in order of the lowest balance to the highest balance. And then you pay off
Mhm.
the lowest balance first. And then, you add that payment to the next one, and you just keep going. So the total
Hold on a
amount,
sec, Steph.
yeah,
We're still paying minimums on everything else.
paying minimums on everything
Okay.
else, and then throwing all your extra stuff toward, that lowest balance first.
Okay.
And, this is helpful, one, for people that need like quick wins, right?
Mhm.
They want to see their number of debts go down. It's really motivating to like pay off something and like, hooray, we paid it off. And then now we can, transfer our resources onto the next thing on the list. So people have 12, 15 different kinds of debt, credit cards and whatnot. It feels really good just to have like one less bill to worry about, like one
Right.
less thing to pay off, right? So if we need
Right.
to get like decrease the clutter, or if people, like, they don't have a lot of trust, they don't have a lot of trust in themselves and their or belief in their money decisions, it like can help build up those like psychological wins, right?
Mm.
Because you're paying off the lowest balances first, they get out of the way, and you just have that motivation of like continuing to keep going because you see, yourself paying off the debts faster. You see having less bills to pay, just like the actual numbers of things go down. So that's who, really loves the snowball method, who it works well for.
And it
The
is
next one,
really fun. That's the one that we used back in
yeah.
the day. It is fun because then it does snowball, right? Because then you take the minimum of what you just paid off and all your
Mhm.
extra and apply it to the next. Then you
Yep.
have another bigger snowball to apply to the next. And it does get bigger. It is very enticing for people like me who love that quick win. Just going to say.
Yeah. Yeah. So, say you're paying $1,000 in minimums across 10 debts or something, $100 a month, right? The $1,000 over this course of the debt payoff is not going to change, right? So you pay off that one, with the $100 minimum. Now you have $200 to pay to the second debt on the list, right? Then by the time you get to the third one, you have $300 to put toward that. And that's how it snowballs.
It's very
The
exciting. Anyway,
yeah.
yes.
No,
Next.
the avalanche method
Ooh.
is similar, but you list it in order of highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate.
Okay.
So this one mathematically actually works out to the lowest total interest paid. So numbers wise, like you're going to save the most on interest. And the mindset behind is like the highest interest rate is costing you the most money, right? So for people who don't need that quick win necessarily, but are more motivated by the financial gains of like, I don't want to pay as little interest as possible. Interestingly, the timeline on your debt payoff plan for this avalanche method is usually within a month or two of the snowball method in the projections that I've seen. But you're going to end up paying less interest over time.
That's interesting. Okay, so we list them by highest interest to lowest interest. And so even though it might take longer to pay off the highest
First
interest,
win. Yeah.
over time, you're still having more money in your pocket. Very
And
interesting.
yeah. And that's also really good for people that have, maybe one or two debts that have like a significantly higher interest rate than the others. Say you have a bunch of stuff that's under 10% or a personal loan or a car loan that's at like 9% or whatever. And then you have these credit cards that are 29%. Those are going to cost you more money over time. So if you have, a few debts that are significantly higher than all the others, it can be, really helpful and like motivating for those people to just pay that off first.
And you're still paying minimums on everything else, right? Like we're never not paying minimums.
No.
Just to clarify.
Yep.
Yeah, we're always keeping the minimums going. That's an interesting method. I should refinagle our order and see how much we could save. Okay.
Yeah. And a couple more methods here. So, and the avalanche method was popularized by Suze Orman, who, is another big financial literacy, financial educator. The next one, and those work really great for some people. But for some people, it's totally wrong for, they look at the interest rate or the balance and don't think about like some of the other components, which we'll get into here. So the other method is like the payment amounts method. And this one, I think was popularized by Robert Kiyosaki, who's the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. And you could put your feelings aside on all of these people that popularize these methods, because we're just talking about the numbers and who they're good for and why they work, right? So he has you order them from your highest payment amount to your lowest monthly payment amount of minimum.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So that frees up. So you focus on your payment with the highest minimum payment, right? Some people I see have credit cards at $20,000, $30,000. Their minimum payment on that is like $800 a month, right? If you free up that $800 first, you have so much more money to then pay toward the lower minimum payments faster, right? So it frees up a larger amount of minimum payment money to put towards something else faster. So then you can throw more money at, the other things and help you tackle those faster. And again, this is like usually for all of these, for most people, it's excluding their mortgages. That's a whole other conversation, but.
And a business loan, we're still talking just personal. Yeah.
It depends. I would say like your business finances and your personal finances can be completely separate when it comes to paying off business and personal debt. That's a whole, like, I specialize in helping business owners figure out how to pay themselves a consistent salary, but also pay off their business debt. And that's that's taken care of kind of as a separate entity from your personal debts. But you want to be making enough in your business to cover the minimum payments in your business at least, and being able to like fund your life so that you can still tackle all these goals, which include,
Mhm.
may include the method of paying off debt in order to tackle those goals. So we have to budget for that kind of separately. But if you have a bunch of different business debts, instead of just maybe like one business credit card or one business loan, you could use any of these methods for, paying off your business debts and picking what order you want to do that into. So
Now, how
the
does Robert Kiyosaki's timeline compare to the other two?
that's a great question. I haven't done the projections on that as much, but this is really good for people with really tight budgets. So like people have very
Mhm.
little wiggle room at the end of the month, like not a lot of extra money. Um, maybe they have 20 bucks left over or nothing left over, right? If they're going to prioritize one, and have 100 bucks here, maybe they sell something or get a bonus or get a tax refund. Like if you free up that $800 a month in someone's budget that has very little wiggle room at the end of the month,
Ah,
that is so much more helpful, can be so much more helpful than freeing up the $100 a month payment.
interesting. I see. Okay.
So, when the highest payment amount gets paid off first, it frees up more money to tackle the lower payments faster or like gives just some breathing room in the budget, right?
Right?
Gives some breathing room for something to come up. Maybe you can actually start putting half of that money toward an emergency fund so that when, the car needs new tires, like, or someone goes to the ER and you have a copay, like that doesn't end right back up on the credit card, right? Because if chances
Yeah.
are, if you have no wiggle room in your budget, you're not really saving for things like that either.
That buys
So,
you time.
mhm.
It
So you
buys
can
you
leverage,
options,
yeah, that
right?
money in other ways, emergency fund, other debts. But, if you free up the highest payment amount first, you can have more wiggle room, some breathing room,
Hmm.
and or like, putting that $1,000 or $800 a month toward the next thing, and say that one is $200 a month, right? How much faster you can pay off that $200 a month one when you're paying $1,000 on it. So
Or, bank 400 of it until you have that emergency fund and you're
exactly,
still up.
still up.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's a really interesting method that a lot of people don't think of, but it can be really great for some people that just need to free up more money in their budget faster.
Yep. Awesome.
So the last one, and this one I think it's gaining more popularity now, or at least within my financial coaching circles of, customizing things and helping people, figure out what one is going to work for them the best. But I guess I'm calling it like the emotional baggage method
Okay.
or the triggers method. So is there a debt, do you carry a debt with high emotional baggage? It makes you just like, ugh, that pit in your stomach, makes you feel bad about yourself, makes you like angry at yourself or someone else for a decision you made in the past.
Gonna
You have,
say it's a debt that an ex put on you, right?
yeah, or a divorce.
Yeah.
That every time you see that come out of your account, you're like living that over and over and over again. Um, this may make psychological sense to pay that off first, right? And just like, who cares what the debt payment is, what the interest rate is, what the balance is? Like, again, yeah, say what you just said about an ex or a divorce or something. If we can give people the permission to like get that out of their lives for good
Right.
first, and that frees them up to feel better about themselves, to not have this ugly, like toxic reminder every time that payment comes out. Like,
So valuable.
let's get it done, and
Right.
then after that, we can use one of the other methods to follow,
Huh.
which ones come next. But and maybe there's a couple that have emotional baggage, or maybe you're like, oh no, I hate all my debts equally, right? Okay, well, we wouldn't use that
They
one.
all trigger me equally. Yes.
But for some people in the right situation,
Yeah.
if you've gone through certain life things, right? I have some widows who were left with debt that they literally didn't know about. Like,
Yeah, let's
is
pay that
that,
one off first.
yeah, because then
Yeah.
you have that whole grief thing and you're angry. Uh, and then you feel guilty about being angry because the person's not even there anymore. But like, imagine finding out about this huge like margin loan or something after your partner passes. and you're stuck with it. Let's get rid of that one first.
Yeah. Well, remember, we do health and wellness related shows here.
Yep.
Finances are no exception to your whole body wellness, your mental wellness, your emotional wellness, your physical wellness, right? Like you don't want to end up like me, literally carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders and having to put pain patches on, right? And this isn't necessarily due to just finances, but it all matters, right? It really matters how
Yep.
you are viewing your money and viewing your debt. And so this one makes a lot of sense to me, actually.
Yep. Yep. How you think about it matters. What you tell yourself about it matters, right? So if there's one that psychologically it makes sense to pay off first, it is causing the most psychological drama and baggage for you, and might be the reason you don't even want to look at it. Might be the reason you don't even want to look at your bank accounts. Let's get rid of that one, right?
I'm on board. And then choose another method.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, then the fifth kind is like, let's just customize it. Let's look at your situation and figure out what you're most motivated by and what makes sense to you and what your debts are, and maybe use a combination of all of the above to have a really customized payoff plan. And the thing is about all of these methods, like the concept is the same. You pay your minimums on all of your debts except for one, and then throw the extra toward the first one on the list, right? Prioritize that debt until it's gone and then pick the next one. So the strategy is the same, but like they just differ on which one comes first, right? Picking one debt, it's a very focused approach. So for all of these methods, some people might just be a numbers person and they just really want to not pay interest. Some people need those small wins and just want to have 7 debts on their list instead of 12, and that makes them feel better and more in control, right? But picking one debt first does keep the focus narrow, right? People have an easier time getting behind that. Because there's a lot of people that I work with who are just like, well, let me pay 100 extra on this one and 50 extra on this one and 25 extra on that one, 25 extra here. And you're not actually making very much progress on any of them. And so, all of these methods use the same kind of strategy of like, pick one. It's a very focused approach. You see the progress on that one. Whichever one you pick first, it's going down faster and it's going away faster, right? And so then that boosts people's motivation over time. So the idea of kind of like dividing and conquering, throwing extras here and there, maybe 1 month I put the extra toward this one and 1 month I put the extra to that one, like you're just kind of elongating the pain,
Right.
if you're doing that. And so whichever one you pick, I just encourage people to pick one, minimums on everything, pick one to prioritize, and you're going to stay more focused, you're going to have more motivation, and people get behind like a focused approach. When it feels like chaos and your payoff strategy is chaos and, like extra here and extra there, that doesn't, people don't sustain that,
Yeah.
There's other
Let me ask,
considerations. Oh yeah, go
can I
ahead.
ask you a question? Because it just
Absolutely.
came to mind as you were chatting. What if I'm paying all the minimums and there's still nothing extra? Like there's nothing extra to throw at that one debt. What are some of the methods that we can use to get more finances to throw at the debt?
Yeah, such a good question. And that's what I help people explore. There's a lot of ways we can do that. We can look at a personal loan for consolidating, maybe the higher interest debts. We can look at 0% interest credit cards. There's so many out there offering 0% APR and balance transfers for 12, 15, 18 months. So if we can transfer some of your balances, and a lot of people get into this mess because they're kind of trying to do that and shift things. But you have to like then actually pay them down, when you
Right.
have that 0% interest. It doesn't mean you just have a more of a debt ceiling and keep using it. It's if you have nothing left, if we can transfer some of that debt to a lower interest. I have a client that has a HELOC at like 9.5%. And so, yeah, for them, it may make sense to transfer some of that 29% credit card debt onto, the other $10,000 on their line of credit that they have left on their HELOC. so that we're decreasing the total interest paid, and then that's going to create some more breathing room. So there's tons of strategies about that. You know, there's debt consolidation programs. Some are pretty predatory. I always really like people to do their research and talk through those things with them before they opt into one of those programs. Not all of them are built equally. But yeah, stuff like that. So like, can we, you know, shift some debt around responsibly to lower interest and then create breathing room that way?
Yeah. We could also get a side job. Could also sell some things.
Sell some
Right? Like
things.
there's a lot of ways to get creative
Yep.
when you have that focus. And I think people are more willing to make short-term sacrifices when there's a plan in place.
Not when it just feels like this endless moving target.
Exactly.
So having a strategy is the key, right? And what was I going to say there? Oh, get a job, sell some stuff. When we were getting out of debt, nothing in my house was safe. I would walk around like, what could I get for that thing? Could I replace it for less? Like nothing was safe. I became a Facebook Marketplace pro, but I will say,
Love it.
don't have people meet you at your house unless it's like a large piece of furniture. Just be careful out there.
Okay.
Um,
Good tip.
you know, yeah.
Again, you heard it here first.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into how I learned that lesson, but my luck ran out at one point, and I decided to not have people meet at my house anymore. But you know,
Yes.
another thing to consider is like is tax considerations, right? Say the last thing left is like a student loan, or maybe your student loan has a higher interest rate than your car loan, and you're wondering which one of those to pay off first. With student loans and even a mortgage, you're probably hopefully deducting the interest on your tax return every year. Obviously I'm not an accountant. You know, discuss this with your bookkeeper, with your accountant, your tax professional, but you know, when ranking in order of interest rates, like that's something to maybe consider, because if you're, you know, if you pay that off, you can't deduct it from your taxes, so you might have a higher, you know, marginal tax rate, all of that kind of stuff, right? When you deduct your actual interest, the interest rate then becomes slightly lower, if you will, right? Because you're getting kind of the
Right.
tax credit for that.
Not
So
just face value. You need to
yeah,
understand, yeah, the
that
implications.
might
Yep. Okay.
change your rankings, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, if people ask, okay, what is the best approach overall, right? The best approach is the one that you're going to stick to.
Yeah. And get excited about,
Yeah, where you have the most
right?
buy-in. You know, the number one thing about paying off debt is buy-in. The best approach to paying off debt is the one that works best for you and your situation. You know, so if debt payoff is the goal, which again might not be the goal for everybody, and I challenge that that's not actually really the goal. But if getting out of debt payoff is the strategy that you need to use to get to that next place in life, um, you know, take all of the above into consideration, but like choose the one that's best for you. Feeling confident in your strategy, you know, means you're more likely to succeed. So the best approach is the one that you're going to stick to. So just pick one, you know, whether it's the one with the highest interest rate, lowest balance, most emotional baggage, you know, biggest payment, like pick one, pay the minimums on everything else, and, you know, tackle that one, and then just rinse, repeat, do it again until it's gone, right?
Yep.
And also like resist the urge to change strategies. Don't just be like, okay, we're going to try the snowball method, and then I'm getting tired of this and maybe not seeing fast enough progress, so I'm going to move to the payment method. And right, like just pick a strategy and stick to it, and yeah, figure out the one that motivates you the most, that is going to get you wins that are appealing to you. And yeah, don't change it just because like you talked to a friend who said, oh well, I really liked the avalanche method.
Right.
Like,
Right. Stick to your guns, friends. Stick to your guns.
yeah. So yeah, that's, I mean, people want to know, oh, what's the best way to pay it off? You heard it here first. The one you're going to actually stick to.
The one that you're able to do,
Yeah.
right? Because debt payoff, depending on how much debt you have, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Right. And so, yeah,
And
what,
where does that, yeah, how does that align with like your whole picture, right? The marathon. How fast do you want to run this marathon? that is a whole nother, customization question. Where does it fit in alignment with your goals? Are you able to save for the family vacations and your emergency fund and all of that and pay off debt slower? Great. Are
Right.
you not able to do that until this debt is gone? Whether that's like numbers wise, emotionally, capacity wise, right? Let's talk about that. So, it's all like, it's lifestyle, it's your goals, it's your dreams. Like I shared last week, it's not worth not getting invited to things because you have 7 jobs and don't ever have a day off, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. Maybe for some people, if they know it's going to be for 3 months, great, they're
Then it's
willing to,
manageable. That's right.
right? If you're going to need to do that for a year and a half or 3 years, like no one in this debt kind of conversation talks about like, what's the toll that's going to take on your relationships? What's the toll that's going to take on your marriage? What's the toll that's going to take on not being at your kids' sporting events?
Yeah. Your
Not
body, your
at family
health.
birthday parties. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's also the piece of the conversation that I bring in when we're talking about like, where we prioritize this goal, how fast, and what the methods are. And then, we map out a plan and stick to it. And life comes up, right? Maybe one month you're able to pay 500 extra on something, and then you need a car repair, and maybe we're just going to use the $500 for that and not put it on credit card debt and pick back up the next month. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Well, guys, listen, you have the ability to have a conversation with Stephanie. And so I'll put that in the, what is it called?
Show notes, whatever.
Description. Yeah, whatever.
Description, caption, whatever.
I'll put it here. And with a discount, right? So she's offered a discount to you because you're listening to this podcast, this episode. And we need coaches in our life in various different areas, right? There's mindset coaches, there's fitness coaches, there's marriage help, there's financial coaches, right? Like this is what Steph does. And the more I listen to you, Steph, the more I like your approach of there is no one size fits all. And just like sometimes you need somebody to talk to walk through your specific situation, like that's what you have available to you. Okay. So I'll put all that information there in wherever it goes, whatever the name of it is. And Steph, next week we're talking money mindset. Yeah. You want to give a
Yep.
little teaser?
Oh, hot seat. I think we already referred to it, like how you talk to yourself about this stuff matters. So if you want to,
Yes.
if you want a different relationship, like you got to change some things, right? If you're like dating someone who's like talks to you like crap and makes you feel like crap and you want to feel better, you probably need a new relationship.
Right.
So the same is true with your money and your own personal relationship with that money. If you want your life to look different, you probably need a new relationship. And that comes to how you're talking to yourself about money, how it's making you feel.
Yep.
So
All
I
right. So
believe
that's
that we have
next week.
the power to change all of that in
Yes, we
between
do.
years.
Yes. Wealth starts here, not in our pocketbook. Thank you, Steph, for this week. It was really eye-opening. I hadn't heard of a couple of those methods. So now I'm going to go back to our consumer debt and be like, maybe there might be a better way to do it. I don't know.
Which one pisses me off the most? Yeah, you're
Yeah, exactly. I don't have any emotional trigger
good.
debt.
Good.
No emotional trigger debt. But yeah, it was super, super enlightening. So I appreciate your time today. And guys, reach out to
Okay.
Steph if you want to have a conversation. And Steph, we'll talk next week.
Yeah, sounds good. Same time, same place. We'll see you then.
All right,
Thanks.
friend.
Bye.
See you.